What's going on, guys? Welcome to our 2018 Game Room Tour. So when you first walk into the room, you're greeted by our super cool Bad Dudes gaming cabinet. On top, we got a bunch of PS4 boxes stacked up in our Amiibos. And the first shelf is actually our most random, most diverse shelf in the whole room. Down here we have our complete Dragon Ball Z VHS collection, then our Game Boy collection, and then our strategy guide and comic book collection. What's cool about our strategy guides is that we actually have they're not strategy guides, they're more like art books, but we have a few Mega Man ones right here that are actually pretty hard to find and pretty expensive. Also down here in our Game Boy games, a lot of the games that we have are actually stuff that we found in the wild or stuff that we've had as kids, so it's really cool to us. So the shelf behind me actually has a lot of our Famicom stuff, our Japanese stuff, our handheld stuff, our DS stuff, our 3DS stuff, and at the very bottom it actually has our really cool Pong set. Our Famicom stuff actually came from our good friend Soft Otaku over in Japan.
Here what we have is our NES collection. We actually have some pretty decent titles. I think we got all of the Double Dragon games, the Dragon Warrior games. Of course, you're going to see later on all the Mega Man games, and everything in between, the Castlevania games. Just a pretty solid collection. It's, I think, kind of the retro one that we started with first, the NES collection. Pretty stoked. This item here we actually found was the very first item here locally in town that we found at a thrift store. And we got our Wii U, and Switch stuff down there, which Switch we don't have very much, but I'm pretty happy with the 5 games that we do own as of right now. And then, moving on to the next shelf, we do have the Ninja Turtle series that came out at Toys R Us about 5 or 4 years ago. Right below that is the Walmart series, and then we've got actually a set open, and we've got a few sets open of the Dollar General and Family Dollar Ninja Turtles and Shredder and Foot Clan member, and we got this little guy here too as well. But those were cheap. If you don't have those yet, I think they were $5. Yes. $5 a piece, and they're really cool. I really like them. There's quite a bit of detail in them. And underneath we do have the original run right from the movies that were also from Toys R Us. And in front here, this open set was a set from China that I had bought. And I think for those 4 turtles from China, it was the same cost as one new one that we got at Walmart. So that's pretty cool. And below that we do have the sealed ones, and we got Mikey hanging out with a Dollar General Family Dollar ones. And below that, our special edition Call of Duty games. I think we got Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, and Ghosts.
here alongside this wall and all on top of me are the World of Nintendo figures that are 2.5 inches. The ones on top are Walmart exclusives, and these right here you can find them at Walgreens, Kmart. You can find them at Walmart too, but they're not exclusive to Walmart. We have pretty much a full set of the Walmart ones, but we're missing a whole bunch of those. These down here are the 2.5 inch figures as well, but they're Family Dollar exclusives. They come with an extra little figure thingy. We got a coin and an egg. Behind me is actually our closet, where a lot of our stuff that isn't being displayed is actually in. It's not necessarily extra stuff. Up here we have a bin that has some extra figures, but everything down here is our Xbox stuff, Xbox 360 stuff. We have comic books, we have Game Informers, our PC games, some plug and plays. And then down here on the ground is actually our bin where we have all of our extra N64 controllers. There's hardly any doubles, they're actually all the fantastic ones and all the colored ones.
Alright, so here we have the shelf that hosts our Atari, Genesis, some of our original PlayStation stuff, and GameCube. For the Atari, it's actually a pretty decent collection. I think there's upwards of 90 games now. I think there's pretty close to 100 games. We do have the Joy board, which it's actually, I don't really ever see anybody that has one. And it's kind of like a board like the Wii Fit, where you would stand and it would control, it does what a controller would do, but on the board. So you would use it with a game like Mogul Maniac, which you would control the skier or whatever game that you're playing, you would control it with the board. And it does have a port so that you could connect a paddle to it or whatever. But that's actually pretty cool. We do have a boxed greatest game of all time, E.T. on the Atari 2600. That's just that game, and then Moonsweeper, I think, is the only other ones that we have complete in a box. But we do have manuals for every single game that we own. And then we got the Genesis. The Genesis is a smaller collection. Growing up, whenever I did have it, I mostly had all the Disney games. Lion King, Aladdin is like my favorite game on the system. We do have a Phantasy Star 2, along with a really neat little booklet. And then two of our cooler items in the entire collection as well is Code Eliminator and Game Panic 2, which are exclusives for John Hancock that we got at PRG a couple of years, I think 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And then below that, we have the original PlayStation with a couple of joysticks that we actually found at a thrift store here in town for a really good price. And then we have 3 different colors of PlayStation controllers down there, original PlayStation. I think we're missing one. I think we have a red one. It's hiding somewhere. And below that, our GameCube collection. We had a really stacked GameCube collection. We had all of the Zelda titles on the system, all the Resident Evils. We had just about every cool game that you would want on the system, except for all the really expensive ones. But to get some of the other games that we're going to show you in a little bit, some of the pricier games at PRGE, we took that stuff to trade in. Right now, the jewel in our collection is a Fire Emblem game that my brother actually found for, how much did you find it for?
$3.
For $3. Yeah. For $3 at a for $3 or $5 at a pawn shop, but it's worth upwards of $70. So right now, and we recently found that one, so we're really stoked to have that in our collection. And then over here on this side, I know I showed the top part of the shelf, but we're going to be talking about the bottom part. We have the SNES collection down there. We have all of the titles that you would really want, that we really wanted in the collection to play. The Mario games, the Donkey Kong games, Yoshi. We have the Ninja Gaiden trilogy, but that was a gift from Console Kev. And then we have a bunch of box games. A few we've purchased, but a lot of them we purchased here in town, and a lot where I think we got them for like $2 a pop, but they're nothing special. They're just good games to have. I think one of them's Lion King. That one's for me. Growing up, I remember playing that at my uncle's house a lot. And then, of course, we got the Mega Man collection. We're missing a lot of the DS games, but we do have a complete North American PlayStation set. We have complete in box NES set. We have the Mega Man Zero games. We only have Mega Man 1 and 2 on the Game Boy. We're missing 3, 4, and 5. And the biggest ones we're missing are Mega Man Soccer, Mega Man 7, and Mega Man X3 on the SNES. Those are the ones that we're probably going to be after first. And then the one on the Sega Saturn, Mega Man 8. All the ones that pretty much weren't on PlayStation, we're still missing. And then above that, we've got a few of our complete in box NES games. And really a section of our collection that I really like. All of our homebrews and hacks and just different games that have been released recently for a system that's freaking 200 years old.
In the middle of the shelf right here, we actually have our NES and our SNES Classic. Right here, you can probably barely see them. Then up here on the top half of the shelf is actually where our pride and joy is. Here at the front, we have some of the World of Nintendo figures and Amiibo, little knickknacks. Then we've actually been trying to complete some of our loose N64 games. We have a lot of good titles in the box, like Majora's Mask, Mario Kart 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Diddy Kong Racing, Super Mario 64. We're trying to get at least all the good games. Then up here at the top of the shelf, we have, I guess you could say all the rare, the more expensive games. We have Mario Party 3 Not For Resale, Stunt Racer, Super Bowling, Bomberman 64 Second Attack, a copy of Turok 2 Demo Only, and then of course you got Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, which we did get at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I think we got almost all these games up here at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. At the top of the shelf, we have our Wii U box. Those are the consoles that I grew up with, so I really like those systems. Here we have a copy of the VHS tape promoting The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, some Amiibo, and yeah. Right here next to the shelf is actually where another big chunk of our collection is. We actually were able to downsize it, the space that it took to display it all because of this new cool hook method that we're using. It's all of our Amiibo. We have nearly a full set. We're only missing about probably like less than 10. And we actually have a video on how to do this hook system, so you guys should watch that too. But these two shelves is actually where we have our PlayStation complete in box stuff. We have Dance Dance Revolution, Time Crisis 4, and our PlayStation 1 console, and then a Gamer Edition Monopoly on top. These two rows right here is actually where we have our N64 consoles. On the top we have our Fantastic series. We got our Japanese white and blue, white and red, or white and pink versions. Down here we have our North American Pikachu N64, our gold N64, and our Japanese Just Go 30th Anniversary N64. These two shelves down here, that's a Diehawks Japanese N64 with Mario Party 1, 2, and 3. Then we have our Genesis love. We have the Nomad, which we actually found on Facebook garage sale, so that was a pretty cool find. Then we have a Sega Genesis. Right here we have our Pip-Boy edition with a little light-up Pip-Boy, which is supposed to light up, but it's not right now. Then we have some of our 2.5-inch figures. Got to show Star Wars some love down there. We have some Funko Pops. We have some cool popcorn dispensers that we got from Mexico when we watched The Force Awakens. Down here we have some Amiibo. And then, of course, our Uncharted section down here. We have all 4 games. We have this super cool statue from the Uncharted 4 Collector's Edition. Some watches. A lot of Uncharted stuff. It's actually one of my favorite games of all time. I think it's some of the only... it's the only games that I've gotten all the trophies for on the PlayStation.
So here we have our PlayStation section in the game room. It's really a section that I love that we have, where we have so many games. I think a total we counted, I think it was like 500 to 520 games or something like that on this wall, which is pretty good. I'm happy with that. It might be more than that now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, the PlayStation 2 section is actually one where we've gotten from the most variety of places. Whether it was eBay, retro video game stores, yard sales, flea markets, whatever it was. We've gotten just a little bit of everything from everywhere. The last few that we've added that are worth noting, I think, is Dragon Quest VIII and Star Ocean, which I got for Christmas from Bubba. And then here in the original PlayStation, we've actually got, I think, a decent collection. We've got all of the Tomb Raiders, the Final Fantasies, Gran Turismos, which Gran Turismos were fun. So Wave Race, all of the Crash Bandicoots. We got the Parasite Eves. We've got the Resident Evils. We just got a pretty solid collection, considering that we haven't found really any games for it in the last 1 or 2 years, or we haven't just bought any at PRG or something like that. But if you guys do want any more a detailed view of what we have in the collections, let us know, and we'll be happy to make a dedicated video to any collection that we have in the entire game room. As far as PS4 games go, we've kind of slowed down on buying new games just because the backlog is so big that we just have games laying around that some of these are even sealed. Like Bloodborne is sealed. Then we have a few PSP games. I sold our PSP that we originally had, which was a big mistake about 5 or 6 years ago. It's actually been a really long time, maybe even longer than that. And then we have a few PS Vita games that my brother's actually found for 50 cents at a pawn shop or something. I think all of them at pawn shops, right? Yeah. And then the PS3 collection, which I think is one of my favorites, just because there's so many great games, along with all the other PlayStation systems. There's so many great games on the PS3, and I love playing retro games, but playing the Uncharted's, The Last of Us, and then some of the Call of Duty games and stuff. That's the system that we played a lot of that stuff on. So it's one of my favorite systems in our collection for sure.
So right here in our Nintendo 64 neck, we actually have a whole bunch of Batmobiles, Hot Wheels that we actually stopped collecting because they started getting kind of expensive, and there's a whole bunch of them that we're missing, and you just got to draw the line somewhere, Right here we have our Hot Wheels, our Super Mario Bros. Series Hot Wheels. We're actually missing one of those. A couple of DeLoreans, and then our pullback Mario Kart DS vehicles. Then behind me, obviously, is actually our North American N64 set, which is not complete yet. We're getting there. Obviously, we have all the Mario parties, Mario Kart, all the good games, and then of course all the filler titles. Down here at the bottom of the shelf, we have some more Batmobiles, some Mega Man pops, and then our Nintendo 64 sleeves that George used to custom make. When we are done completing the N64 set, we are going to be making a video on that for sure. You guys should also stay tuned for our weekly episodes on N64 reviews.
And so before we end this room tour, we have this behemoth right here, which I'll kind of pan over here, and you guys will see that the beginning of the game room is over there. But this thing is huge, but we're happy we got it. It's Samsung. It does have composite and component, and it's really where we game. So here we have the little two storage units where we have all of our extra cables, controllers, and whatnot. Our little mini fridge, our Juggernog mini fridge from the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Special Edition, and then the systems that we play on. So one of the last games that I played on the NES, which I used the RetroPort converter, which allows me to play the NES games on any Super Nintendo console. In this case, we got the Mini connected. We do have an N64 connected, Genesis Model 3, which is kind of dark, but it's down there. And then we have a PS2. And then we got the Wii U, since this thing You can connect component. It's really nice. But this is just kind of our gaming section, and I'll show you our shot of our very much retro couch as well. And there's our couch that we sit on to game. And here's a little view of our N64 Nook.
Alright guys, so this concludes our 2018 game room tour. Let us know in the comments below what you like or what you want to see more of in our game room. Thanks for watching.